The first weapons were not created for war. They were created to decide who had the right to shape reality. Before kings, before empires, before laws, there were forces that needed to be controlled. And the only way to control them was to give them a form, a name, and something that could command them. That something became a weapon. Not because it killed, but because it defined who was allowed to act. Poseidon's trident was not forged to conquer the sea. It was forged because the sea could not be trusted to remain still. During the war between gods and titans, when the world had not yet chosen its rulers, Zeus freed the Cyclops creatures that understood how to shape power into objects. They did not create weapons, they created permissions. The thunderbolt gave Zeus the right to rule the sky. The helmet gave Hades the right to disappear from it. And the trident gave Poseidon something more dangerous than strength: control. When it struck the ground, the earth opened. When it touched the sea, the water obeyed. Not because it was forced to, but because something had decided that it must. The three prongs were not decoration. They were a division of authority: seas, rivers, and lakes. Everything that moved without asking. And after the war ended, the weapon remained. Because once something is given control over chaos, it is rarely taken away. Not all weapons were made to rule. Some were made because the world itself refused to behave. The Ruyi Jingubang did not begin as a weapon. It began as a measurement. In an age when floods erased entire civilizations without warning, there needed to be something that could define limits where none existed. A pillar driven into chaos to say, this far and no further. Forged from black iron, pulled from depths older than memory, it could grow or shrink as needed. Because chaos does not have a fixed size. And anything meant to control it cannot either. It stood as a column between order and collapse, until it was no longer needed. So it was hidden, stored beneath the ocean, inside the palace of a dragon king, where forgotten tools go when their purpose becomes too dangerous to remember. Until something found it. Sun Wukong did not create the staff. He recognized it, and in doing so, turned a tool of balance into a weapon of defiance. Some weapons are not tools. They are conclusions. The Gaebolg was never meant to give victory. It was meant to remove the possibility of survival. Forged from the remains of something that should not have existed, it carried a single rule. Once it enters, nothing leaves unchanged. A single wound was never just a wound. It became a system. Barbs multiplying through the body, spreading through flesh and bone, until the idea of healing no longer applied. It was not thrown like other spears. It was launched from below, from a place no defense expects. Because inevitability does not arrive from where you are looking. And when Cuchulainn used it against the only person he should never have had to fight, the weapon did exactly what it was designed to do. It ended the possibility of another outcome. Some weapons are not born from chaos. They are delivered. Durandal was not simply forged. It was assigned. An angel brought it, not to the strongest, but to the one considered worthy of carrying something that could not be broken. Because indestructibility is not a property of metal. It is a test. The blade could cut through stone, through armor, through anything placed before it. But its true weight came from what it contained: fragments of belief, relics of faith, pieces of something that demanded obedience without explanation. Roland carried it not because he could use it, but because he accepted what it represented. And when he knew he would die, he did not try to save himself. He tried to destroy the weapon. He failed. The stone broke. The sword did not. Some symbols are not meant to be destroyed by the ones who carry them. Excalibur is often remembered as a sword. It was never just that. It was a decision made visible. Forged in a place that does not belong to the human world, guarded by something that does not answer to it. It existed before its owner did. Waiting. Because kings are not always chosen by people. Sometimes they are chosen by systems that cannot be questioned. The blade could cut anything. But it was not what made Arthur dangerous. It was the scabbard, the thing that prevented him from bleeding. A king who cannot bleed is not simply protected. He is removed from consequence. And that is what makes authority absolute. The sword proved he was chosen. The scabbard ensured that choice could not be easily undone. In the northern traditions, weapons were not symbols of rule. They were instruments of law. Mjolnir did not grant power. It enforced it, forged by beings who understood that reality itself could be written into objects. It carried runes that did not guide its strike. They guaranteed it. It never missed. Not because it was accurate, because missing was no longer an option. In Odin's hand, it became something more than a weapon. It became a statement. When he cast it to begin a war, the war had already begun. Because the act itself carried authority, and authority, once expressed, does not wait for agreement. Some weapons do not serve their wielder. They choose them. Graham was not given. It was locked. Driven into a tree, placed where anyone could try and fail. Strength was not enough. Desire was not enough. Even worth was not enough unless it aligned with something unseen. Only one person could draw it. Not because he was the strongest, because the outcome had already been decided. And when that same force later shattered the blade, it proved something more unsettling. The weapon did not belong to the hero. The hero belonged to the story the weapon was part of. And before all of them, before kings and fate and law, there was a weapon that did something none of the others were meant to do. It did not enforce order. It ended it. The harp was created for rebellion. Forged by a mother whose children had been imprisoned by the one who ruled the sky, it was not designed for battle. It was designed for a moment. A single strike, from below, against something that believed itself untouchable. When Cronus used it against Uranus, he did not just wound him. He replaced him. The weapon did not create power. It transferred it. And in doing so, it established the oldest pattern in mythology. Nothing rules forever. Everything that holds power can be removed. And there will always be something, or someone, waiting for the moment to do it. Legendary weapons were never just objects. They were decisions, preserved in form. Each one answers the same question in a different way. Who has the right to control what cannot be controlled? And every time that question is answered, the world changes shape around it. Not because the weapon is powerful, but because someone decided it was allowed to be.